New storm heading for Fiji on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for December 28th. Right now we're code blue for multiple systems around the world right now. The main feature that we're looking at is actually 5S, which is causing that code blue due to its proximity to the Cocos Keeling Islands, where it's been around there for quite a few days. But this new depression has also formed, is heading for Fiji, a surprise by the way. Meanwhile, another one in the Atlantic, we've actually issued another 10% area of interest there for a system that may just get towards subtropical cyclone status, but we're expecting that it won't. But just in case, we're keeping an eye out on that one. Over the next week or so, it has a chance of developing. Well, in the Eastern Pacific, it's 139 long days until the start of hurricane season again, and we're thankful for that. Nothing active right now, just a few little clouds over the intertropical convergence zone. Into the Western Pacific then, there's not much here either. We haven't designated anything new, but there's a few interesting areas of cloud cover, and perhaps a low pressure system could form quite close to where Pabuk just did last week in the next few days as we approach the new year. Very messy situation across the Western Pacific there. North Indian Ocean remains very quiet right now as well after that last system. Still, there could be a rumour that there might be one or two little things that try to develop again next week in there, but most likely not. Quiet right now, very little cloud cover across that whole region. And in the South Indian Ocean, there's a lot going on. 5S, of course, which is a depression, was a tropical storm briefly, almost 24 hours ago. And that 30% chance, which is approaching Madagascar, sort of was part of 93S that we were tracking for weeks, but it just about lost its touch and then came back again. 30% off the coast of Western Australia as well. Another system could develop over there. And this new system, our designation there, S12 from our internal designations, since they haven't given it a proper designation yet. It is 91p in terms of invest number, heading towards Fiji slowly, although it should weaken before it gets there. Here it is on satellite imagery right now, 91p, slowly heading towards Fiji, pictured at the very bottom right of the screen there, and the system itself looking very good on satellite imagery. Well, we're not sure fully whether the circulation is intact, but certainly looking at those clouds from the upper levels, it's looking mighty good. And it's interesting that the models really haven't picked up on this at all up until now. We didn't think of it at all until we saw it today. This is 5S, that tropical depression now, and you can just about make out the small island to its north there, the Cocos Keeling Islands, Australian territory. This system moving southwards, clearly heavily sheared, and possibly influenced wind shear by its other counterparts nearby, some other areas of interest or at least tropical disturbances, but throwing up massive amounts of convection on that southwestern side, which is probably partially exposed now. Really high cloud tops, you'll see them in a minute. The temperatures probably in the mid to upper minus 90s in one or two hot towers near the center there. But right now, winds probably 35 miles per hour. Briefly was a tropical storm earlier on when it first formed, nearly 24 hours ago, around 18 hours ago probably. And its general movement will be southwards, and then it will probably turn westwards at some point soon, and then probably at some point let go completely. Oh, we've gone back to the other system now, 91p. We do jump around a little bit. Vanuatu on the left-hand side is starting to leave that area. Very small scale system. You can clearly see that some of those larger islands of Vanuatu almost as big as it. Compared to Fiji, it probably isn't even as big as the main island of Fiji, Viti Levu. So the system moving southeasterly at this point, it is blowing up some significant convection on that northeastern side and just looking a little bit like a ragged donut there in those latest frames. Certainly an interesting feature. Here's the Atlantic right now. We had a marginal risk in effect today with a few tornadoes out there across the deep south of the United States, and we've got a major weather event occurring on Saturday, which we're all going to be watching. Here's the Eastern Pacific looking down there. Generally pretty quiet, but there's a few areas of cloud that are blowing up over Central America. Moving out towards the west, you can see a big tuft of cloud there starting to move up from the intertropical convergence zone. It'll probably throw a little bit of weather towards the coast of Mexico, but not much. And here's the Philippine region now over the western Pacific. Quite a few clouds over Palawan and the northern part of Borneo. That little area there could end up becoming a low pressure system properly, and could even become a candidate for maybe a brief spin up tropical cyclone, much like Pabuk. North Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, really nothing going on there, and even less going on in the Arabian Sea, where there's just a little bit of high cloud over the Arabian Peninsula. Southwest Indian Ocean, there's some swirling cloud cover over southern Africa with some thunderstorms over there today. Over Madagascar as well, a few storms there too, and that area of interest to its northeast, 30% chance. And then you've got 5S on the left hand side, that small but bulky system there blowing up all that convection. Really Australia having a quiet one as well, and nothing forecasted for the Australian region. And down to the South Pacific, Lincoln, you miss it, is very small, that system. On the left hand side somewhere in there was that system 91P. Now this is that area of interest in the South Atlantic. We still have a 10% on this one, but we didn't show it in the opening titles. It is more than likely going to die off very, very soon indeed. Well, sea surface temperatures still holding a good account of themselves over the Caribbean Sea and over parts of the Atlantic Ocean, with Caribbean temperatures still running up around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. The Western Pacific also looking decent in those lower latitudes, temperatures notching up towards 30 degrees Celsius near Palau and in parts of the Philippine Sea. Even a little bit of the South China Sea holding on too. Southwest Indian Ocean still very warm off the coast of Madagascar despite Chido the other week. Temperatures also increasing in Mauritius and Reunion Island now getting up to 28 degrees Celsius. Off the west coast of Australia, extremely warm waters up towards 32 degrees Celsius, extending all the way around the top end into the Gulf of Carpentaria. Extremely warm waters there. Surely a cyclone will take advantage of that soon. A little bit cooler towards the west with all those systems recently. And compared to average, you'll note those red areas near Australia showing that it is very much above average off Western Australia, possibly 3 or 4 degrees above. In the Central Pacific, you're still seeing the equatorial region below average there, maybe 3 degrees below actually, so still signs of that La Nina. Eastern Pacific in general a little bit cool. Atlantic looking pretty good. Western Pacific also above average for any late season activity, or early season next year. And this is the oceanic heat content, if I don't trip over there. Still a decent bulk in the Western Pacific, showing up some elevated energy values there off towards the west of Guam and off east as well. South Pacific creeping up stronger as well, where 91P is, it's got moderate values too, a little bit higher towards Fiji to the northwest of the islands, and that will generally be an increasing pattern throughout the next couple of months. So looking at the GFS computer model in the short range, well, it's really only showing this. This is the next 5 days. So that's 5S. It stalls for a bit. It really loses its momentum. It starts to move off towards the west in the end. And then that second system behind it, we're given a 30% on that one, starts to develop. Looks like it does become a tropical storm in that 5-day period, according to the GFS model. We would have shown the Southwest Indian Ocean as well. GFS doesn't really develop it in the 5-day period, but I just want to point out, CMC and ICON do have that developing near Madagascar within that 5-day period. Looking around the Philippines and Vietnam, as we've often done in recent updates, these are going to be some of the wettest places in the world in the next 5 days into the new year there. Some elevated rainfall amounts, especially along the east coast of northern Luzon and up towards the coast of Vietnam as well. A few of those red zones pushing up and above 250 millimeters of rainfall. Whether it's a tropical cyclone related or not, it's certainly going to produce monsoonal showers, which could drop, there it is, 300 millimeters there, 12 inches, and even higher amounts in eastern Luzon. Well, in the longer range, look at this. There's 4 distinct systems or potential circulations there, all trying to form. The one on the right hand side, that was our 30% doing it. The other 30% on the far left also getting there within the 10-day period and going on to just about limbering up to hit the northern tip of Madagascar. Both rather large storms, at least to begin with, especially that eastern one, which has a massive tropical storm wind field on its southern side, not so much on its northern eastern side, develops a little bit further near the end of that 10-day period, almost to hurricane force. Scan the barcode and that will take you to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all our items as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. We still do those. And all we got was a lousy t-shirt for Waiting for Hone, not even a track animation. I believe there may be one in the works though. In the Scilly range, looking at that Madagascar system, continuing on southwesterly, ends up developing again near Mayotte. Obviously that area that was devastated by Chido. Unfortunately, moving on towards Mozambique in a similar fashion and really blowing up in intensity as it does so, getting to Category 1 or maybe Category 2 status. That is still very long range, but we'll keep a close eye on that as we enter the first week of January. Then two systems behind that in the Southwest Indian Ocean, the one that was originally 30% chance, that's still going just south of Reunion near the end of that 16-day loop. Well, on this day, it was a small but mighty cyclone, Tropical Depression 35W. Even though it was only a depression, it had a massive dome, which you can see, of convection, huge amounts of rainfall, one of the most memorable storms of the 2018 season, in fact, in that part of the Philippines. Even more so, you might argue, than one or two of those Category 5 storms. There it is, 35W, as it was going on to affect the Philippine Islands, the Central Visayas region in particular. Sometimes it's the small ones. Well, back to today then. The next name in the Atlantic, should we get one in this tiny amount of time now, is Tony. The Eastern Pacific, Miriam. And in the Central Pacific, it's Iona. And those names will remain the same. The Central Pacific, of course, they don't roll over. In the Western Pacific, the next name I've now remembered, it's Wu Tip. And in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Shakti. 86 storms so far in 2024. We might just squeeze out one or two more before the end. The average per year is 92. In the Australian region, even though we had a cyclone there, which should have been named really, the next name is still Sean. Forgive me, well, you didn't go for it. Southwest Indian Ocean, Dikalady, and in the South Pacific, the next name is Pitta. That's it for tonight. Hopefully we'll be back again soon with another tropical weather bulletin.
Become an ultimate fan today.